You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome into RBLR Lightning, the playoff show, round 2. That's right, round 2, where the Lightning have defeated the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7 games, winning the series 4-3. My name is Chris. We got a lot to talk about here with you guys here on this great show we got planned for you here tonight. I got my main man, Mr. Jake Ricker, with me here tonight. Jake, how you doing, man? You got to be feeling good after this 7-game series victory for the Bolts.
Chris, I am doing fantastic. I am waving goodbye to the Toronto Maple Leafs fans as they head to the golf course, and they are now once again down and done in round number 1. Meanwhile, we are moving on to round number 2. I know I'm throwing a lot of shade there, but I do kind of feel for these fans a little bit. It's been a rough ride for them, and once again, they ran into the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, such a tough opponent. Lightning came through big in both Game 6 and Game 7, and they are ready to take on the Florida Panthers here, the Battle of Florida in round number 2. So I'm excited for this next series. Nothing better than playoff hockey.
Absolutely, man. And what a weekend it was overall for hockey. Tons of Game 7s, lots. And it's only the first round. Think about it. This is only the first round. We still got technically 3 more rounds to go. This felt like almost a week and a half, 2 weeks of the Stanley Cup finals. So
there's 5 Game 7s in the first round. 5. And the
awesome.
record is I think the record was 7.
Yeah.
7 Game 7s in the whole entire playoffs, and we've already had 5
in the first round. So that just means the matchups are going to get even better, get even tougher. So we'll get into the Florida matchup here soon, but just want to recap, Game 6, Game 7, maybe here a little bit. Obviously, last time we talked was Game 5, where, and the Bolts were trailing 3-2. Toronto had taken a series lead, and all they needed to do was win 1 game. And I actually got to go to Game 6, and man, Emily was rocking. What a great atmosphere. I'm really, really glad I went to that game. That was probably in my top. That's got to be in my top 2 of all time. Going there, being there, the excitement, everything. The arena was great, loud. Be the Thunder was really there, and the Bolts. It was a scary game, man. I'll tell you what. Going into OT, you could feel the anxiety in the arena, man. Like everyone wanted to explode, and we were all on the edge of our seat. And Toronto really played well in overtime, man. They really outplayed us, and Sergachev made a huge save that would have ended our season, and everything just worked out our way. And Braden freaking Point was able to come through for us in the clutch. And I talked to the guy next to me. I said, you know what? Point's going to get this OT winner. He's due. And Braden Point really turned out for us there to win that game. So, and then obviously Game 7, man, it's all or nothing for the Bolts there in Game 7. So I think the nerves were shot. The anxiety was there. I thought overall, I think this is the best the Bolts have played. Vasi showed up big time in these closeout games. He has tons of shutouts. He only allowed 1 goal in this game. So I think overall in Game 7, this was the best game we played in the series defensively. Shout out to the PK during this series. Absolutely phenomenal against the number 1 power play in the league. That was just a couple of things I wanted to recap in those past 2 games. Jake, anything Game 6 and 7, man, feel free to let us know how you feel.
Yeah, well, listen to this stat, Chris, that I got here for you. Since 2020, Andrei Vasilevskiy is perfect in games after a loss and clinching games. He's 9-0, just a .81 goals against average and a .970 save percentage, 5 shutouts too. I mean, that is ridiculous how good he is in these elimination or I should say after a loss or game clinching games. He is so good, and he was locked in for both these games. Came up with some huge saves to keep the Lightning alive, especially in Game 7. Braden Point doing what he does best and working his magic in overtime. And then in Game 7, Nick Paul. How about our boy, Nick Paul? How about that trade paying off in spades for JBB right now? Remember, a lot of people focused on the Hagel trade because it was the bigger trade with so many more pieces going back and forth with Chicago, all those first round picks. But then Nick Paul trade kind of went under the radar a little bit, and Nick Paul has paid off so much, and he was huge. And he also did not fist bump the bus driver we're getting off in Game 7. So listen, I'm just I don't know, but it seems like that's been a big jinx. I do feel a little bit bad for the bus driver because it seems like he's a big Lightning guy, but no fist bumps, man. But no, in all seriousness, the Lightning played extremely well. They came out strong. They did what they needed to do. The games were close, but that was to be expected because listen, both these teams are good. Toronto was still a very good hockey team. I heard a lot of Toronto fans saying, listen, this is the least disappointed we've been in a Game 7 loss. It was still obviously hurtful, but they knew their team played hard, and they just ran into another really good team in the Lightning and ultimately lost it in 7. So great job by the Lightning coming through, the big guys coming through when they needed it most, and they're moving on to round number 2. But the biggest issue, Chris, after in Game 7 was Braden Point's injury. I was devastated for that poor guy when he went down. It was a no contact, just an unlucky play. His leg went a direction that no leg is supposed to go at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see him on the bench. He tried to stay out there. He stayed out there with his teammates, but he was devastated. And that's not a good sign moving forward here.
No, this is what I was going to bring up next. Is obviously losing Braden Point is huge. He honestly, to me, he had a good series. He had that game-winning goal, but he was due, man. He was due, and he finally came through in Game 6. And I feel like, man, Game 7 he was flying. He was looking electric out there, and just took a bad fall. And it just didn't look right. It didn't look good. Props to him for getting up and skating off. I didn't know if it was a dislocation, the way he got up so quickly, like if he felt a pop or just the way he got up, you could kind of tell he felt it. So, and it was weird for him to be able to come back out there and try to skate. Obviously I'm not a doctor, but just, I feel like if it was any more serious, he would have gone to, stay in the locker room, surgery, whatever was needed. So I don't know what it is. Obviously he's doubtful. We're going to probably see, like we kind of talked about, doubtful until he's really ready to return. But props to him, man. He stayed on the bench. He even tried to give it a go. Cooper, let him go out there and tried to skate. So that was really cool of Cooper to let him try. And I think that really motivated the team, man. They were like, let's do it for Point. And the Lightning have been down star players left and right the past couple of years. Stammer, Cooch, Hedman, even Vasilevskiy at some points. Like, we've lost some big guys, and like we talked about, we find a way to get it done. And the Bolts did that in this 7-game series, which was just absolutely brutal. And real quickly, shout out to Matt, who's not here tonight. He predicted Bolts in 7. So me and Jake had Bolts in 6. Matt took them in 7. So Matt's off to a 1-0 start here in the series prediction. So real quick shout out to him. But overall, I think it was a crazy series. The anxiety was up, down. We were all emotional. I really thought for a second that, man, the season might actually come to an end, but the Bolts did what they do, and they found a way to get it done. And now we have a big time matchup coming up here against Florida, man. This rivalry has become awesome. The traveling is close. The fan bases are chirping. This is the Sunshine State War, man. This is some fun stuff we're going to get into here. So obviously Florida is the President's Trophy team, man. They made it out of the first round, barely escaping the Capitals. The Capitals put up a good fight. I was a little more worried about Toronto than I am Florida. I think we match up well with Florida. Florida had a lot of come from behind victories this year in the NHL. So if the Bolts can get up big and get a lead and just play solid defense, I think we have a really good shot in this series. Their goaltending's a little sketchy. Obviously Vasilevskiy the best goalie in the world, in my opinion. So I give us the edge there. But Jake, going into this Florida series, man, what really stands out to you here?
Well, there's a lot. First of all, you're absolutely right. And these two teams have really become great rivals over the last couple of years. And it's good to, as much as I don't like Florida, I'm glad they're having success, and that it's just good for the state in general and building the sport of hockey. So that's always nice to see. But listen, Florida is a very offensive-minded team. They, as you mentioned, they come from behind a lot. No lead is safe against the Florida Panthers, as the Washington Capitals learned the hard way multiple times in that series. However, they are definitely a beatable team. We saw this with the Lightning in the regular season. There were a couple of games where the Lightning they put their foot on the gas and never looked back and were able to beat the Panthers a couple of times. We saw Washington get up in big leads. They just weren't able to hold on to those leads. So Washington is very beatable. Really, if you think about it, if Washington would have hit that empty netter, and I think it was game 6 or 5, they probably would have won that series. So I mean, they were inches away from possibly making a huge difference in that series and possibly winning it. So Florida is definitely a beatable team despite how good they are offensively, but you have to be very mindful defensively, and that's going to be the biggest thing, right? The Lightning gave up so many odd man rushes to the Toronto Maple Leafs because they took advantage of it and they knew how to play that way, and Florida's the same kind of way. So the Lightning need to be better defensively in this series and not give Florida chance after chance on the offensive rushes, because this is a team that will capitalize probably 9 times out of 10 and score a lot of goals. So it's going to be a high-flying offensive type of series, and it's going to be a fun one. The biggest thing that I've noticed, Chris, when you're looking at the team statistics, what do you think Florida's power play percentage is from the first series against Washington?
Oof. I watched a little bit of that series. I'm gonna say they scored on at least 4 power plays.
Not even close. They scored on 0 power plays. They had a 0% power play in that first round.
So they're due.
They're you could say they're due, but you could also say that their power play is struggling. And the Lightning do have a pretty darn good penalty kill. They did very good against Toronto Maple Leafs, who had the best power play in the NHL in the regular season. So that's going to be a big key factor, right? Listen, I know we keep saying penalties are going to get less and less. They're not called as much in the playoffs. And typically, as the rounds go on and the games get later, the whistles do go away. But you're still going to get penalty calls. And if the Lightning can shut down the Panthers again and keep them at a very low percentage for this series on the man advantage, that's going to be a huge help to them, especially if they can get their own power play going as they have a little bit in the Toronto series. So that's something to keep your eye on. Is Florida going to get it together and be able to start scoring on the power play, or Lightning going to be able to shut them down again?
And, in the regular season head-to-head, these games are crazy scoring games, between us and the Panthers. And I think I feel like I want to say I expect the same here, but it's hard for me to say that when I got a guy like Vasilevskiy in goalie, because if he's locked in, man, we can shut Florida down. I think that's going to be the most important thing. And one thing looking at here is, the Bolts are 31st in the league in penalty minutes, and Florida is 28. So we got 2 highly penalized teams again, just like going up against Toronto. So, Jake, do you think the refs are going to hold their whistles this round, or do you think we're going to see a lot more penalties, which is going to cause, obviously, the PK to be out there a lot more?
Well, because this is the Battle of Florida, and these two teams do not like each other, and we saw in the first round last year that they really like to fight and get into the extra pushing and shoving, there might be a lot of penalties. There might be a lot of even-up penalties. We might see a lot of 4-on-4 hockey in this series potentially, but usually – and I don't know if the stats don't back this up or not, but usually as you get, again, later into the Stanley Cup playoffs and when you get into those Game 7 or just overtime scenarios, the whistles usually start to go away, although it's been a little bit weird this year and where there's been a ton of more penalties called. But as we saw in that kind of Game 7 against Toronto, even Game 6 a little bit, they put their whistles away, definitely more than they were earlier in the series. So the refs are supposed to get better as well as we move on to the deeper rounds and start to eliminate different crews. So I'd like to think calls are going to go down, but especially with a series like this where these two teams don't like each other and they'll be whacking at each other a lot, you might get a lot of penalties called. And that's going to be a key, right, for the Lightning. Don't take stupid penalties. Don't let Florida get under your skin and start whacking guys for a stupid, cross-checking penalty or something. I'm looking at you, Kucherov, because you love to do that a lot. So don't do any of that. No too many men on the ice calls. I want none of those this series. But that's going to be a key for the Lightning is don't take those silly penalties. Don't let Florida get underneath your skin. Even though the Lightning often are the more physical team, when you got guys like Pat Maroon, Bellemare, Corey Perry, and players like that.
Yeah, and there's obviously putting Florida on a power play is not a good thing to do. Obviously, Washington found a way, or they were really just struggling. But when you look at Florida's players, man, Carter Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair, they got Claude Giroux. They made a trade for, from the Flyers. Sam Bennett, Huberdeau. I mean, Aaron Ekblad. Chariot. Like they're loaded. Really, they are. They can score from all different angles. So the Bolts have to really play this game tight defensively, and I think the Bolts cleaned up their penalties overall in Games 6 and 7. I think Games 1 and 2, 3 were just I don't know if it was a feeling out process, but it just a lot of dumb mental mistakes in the Bolts. But I think game 6 and 7, obviously in 7, we saw the penalties get cleaned up a lot. Just the dumb stuff was going away. I think a lot of the guys were, guys like Maroon were staying out of the box from doing the dumb stuff. Obviously, Ruda hadn't played since he had, how many penalty minutes did he have in games 1 and 2? Was it like
it was
70
something ridiculous. He led the
Right.
team in penalty minutes, and he only played one game.
Yeah, and Cooper was like, yeah, enough of that. Bogo's going in. So I don't know if we'll see Ruda this series at all. Obviously, shutting down these guys is key for the Bolts. So, Jake, what do you think it's going to take to shut a team like Florida down?
Well, quickly on Ruda and that comment you were saying, if we're going to see him, I'm going to be interested to see if the Lightning try to go 11-7 with Braden Point out. The Lightning love to go 11-7. It's usually worked out pretty well for them in years past. So I would not be surprised to see them go 11-7, and I'm wondering if that's what they're going to try and do. The other player you can throw in there is Riley Nash. He hasn't really played a lot at all. So I'm not sure how well he would perform. Maybe he'd be a great addition or not, but I would not be surprised to see the Lightning go 11-7, at least for this first game against the Florida Panthers. So that's going to be interesting to see what John Cooper does in that scenario. As for what you need to do to shut these guys down, it's kind of, again, what I was saying earlier, right? What we've kind of been harping on. Don't take silly penalties and give them a chance on the power play to get their momentum, and make sure you're being smart defensively. Get your guys back. Don't try to, jump up on the play if you think it's too risky. When those guys, we saw Claude Giroux how many times in that Panthers series where he got a breakaway and made a huge goal to bring them within one or take the lead or whatever it was. The Florida Panthers will capitalize on those kinds of opportunities. So you've got to limit those odd man rushes. If you can do that, play smart defensively, and I think you'll be all right. And a lot of people will say, that starts with just puck possession. You can hold on to the puck majority of the time, keep it in your own offensive zone. You're never giving them a chance to have that puck in the first place. So, that's going to be a key for them. And we'll see how things play out. But I think this is going to be more of an offensive series. I see these teams just kind of going back and forth at each other, and whoever is able to get that one good defensive performance, or, Vasilevskiy is able to steal one game, that's what's going to make the difference in this series.
Watch, we're all over here saying like 9-7, 8-5, and it's going to be 1-0, 2-0, 2-1.
Right,
like
exactly.
Complete opposites of what everyone thinks. The Sunshine rivalry is going to be this high scoring affair, and it's going to be 2-1, 2-2, or 3-2, something like that. I expect a better defensive effort from the Bolts. I think they really cleaned it up toward the end in Toronto. Early in the series, it was just the same old stuff we talked about mid-season form, was just the odd man rushes, man. And, a lot of people, once again, like to point at Vassy, and it's not Vassy's fault when you're giving up that many odd man rushes. He can only do so much. And I think he played spectacular in game 7. I think that's really good confidence going forward here in this next round against Florida, who's one of the best teams in the league this year scoring wise. So Vassy's got to have his A game. The defense has to be in place. They have to be in place. They got to block shots like they did in game 7. Can't keep letting guys skate over our blue line. I think we really need to pressure the puck carrier a little better. Pinch up on those.
Don't give them time and space, right? Don't let them have. You give skilled players time and space, they're going to score. If you can keep that space away from them, it's going to make it a lot harder.
And then Florida has tons of those guys, so they need to stay right on them. Watch the puck, follow the puck, and get the puck out of the zone. The Bolts have really struggled to get the puck out of our own zone at times. Just clear it out, get it down the board. Not that fancy pass. Don't play around with Florida. Don't let them get the forecheck going. So, Jake, obviously, with Point being out for who knows how long, doubtful, but we're going to talk about these first 2 games here. What do you expect from the Bolts these first 2 games? Obviously, to me, sometimes the Bolts, when they have too much time off, they look a little sluggish. They're obviously running on adrenaline from game 7 against Toronto. So I think the Lightning are going to come out. I think we're going to see a different team in game 1 than we saw in a different team in game 1 against Toronto. I think we're going to see a lot cleaner play from the Bolts here. I think we're going to see a more established team, I would say. Guys like Nick Paul are really standing out right now to us. I think Hagel's played better defensive wise. I think he had some really key plays for us in game 6 against Toronto. So Jake, game 1 and 2, man, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I think there's going to be some physicality. It's going to be interesting to see if these kind of teams, because remember, Florida's got Ekblad banged up still. I don't know if he's playing in game one. I haven't heard as of yet. I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow. But with both teams having key guys banged up, you kind of wonder, will these teams try to be a little more careful on the physicality side? I doubt it, just because these two teams don't like each other. So I expect to see the Lightning come out strong, big on the forecheck. And I think what they'll try to do is try to jump up big early and be aggressive offensively and try and show Florida, like, listen, you're still the little brother. We are the better team. We are not messing around this time and going this to 7 games. That's what I hope to see. That would be fantastic and make me jump for joy. But in reality, I think it's going to be very physical. It's going to be a lot of 4-on-4 hockey, and we're gonna get a lot of scoring. When it goes both ways, because it might be a filling out process for both these teams. And the biggest question is too, right? Which kind of Bobrovsky? I can't say his name.
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky. Yes, thank you. What kind of Bobrovsky are we going to get? Are we going to get the 2019, or are we going to get what he's been in recent years? So that'll be another thing to keep your eye on as well for this series.
I think the Bolts really do too. They improved a lot in Game 6 and 7. Was get shots on net. Kucherov, no fancy passes, shoot the puck. Like, no one's gonna care at the end of the year for repeating. And Kucherov had 27 goals and 1 assist. No one's gonna care. Like,
right.
I'm not gonna care. Hey,
he was better with that in Game 6 and 7.
He was. So shoot more, Cooch, please. If you can hear this, if one of your friends is listening to this pod, send a message to Cooch. Shoot the puck more, please.
Could you imagine if Kucherov was listening to this podcast right now?
I'm gonna shoot it for
he's sitting
RBLR.
there going, he's gonna go back in the locker room like, listen, guys, I was listening to RBLR and they were saying we've got to shoot the puck more. So let's go. We need to do that. That's definitely what's happening.
Yeah, get those pucks on net, because good things seem to happen when the Bolts do that. We're really good at getting those rebounds. Guys like Killorn, Cirelli, awesome Game 6 from Cirelli. That shorthanded goal, real quick, going back to that. What a phenomenal play from Cirelli. So I think that's going to be the key to these first 2 games. Obviously, I think we're going to miss Point. So I think that's the biggest thing right here.
Oh, no question.
Games. Missing Point is huge. So Jake, can we fill in for that void, or what do we do here?
They can absolutely fill in the void, as you kind of mentioned earlier, right? The Lightning have done this before with guys like Stamkos and Kucherov, where Stamkos was out basically that entire Stanley Cup run, except for that one shift. But you're going to need guys like Cirelli. Hagel's a big one that I look at. Hagel's been good. I think he's been getting better and better, and he's starting to make some of those key playmaker kind of plays. But if you really want to fill the void for Point, I think Hagel is a key guy that could step up and have a big series and really have his coming out party. So that's the guy I look to the most. But Hagel, Cirelli, even Ross Colton. Ross Colton's been great, but he's another guy that can step up into that role. Yeah. And even Nick Paul as well. Nick Paul at practice today was on that second line, right? In that spot where Point was. So he was huge in Game 7. Everybody's been loving him. So if he can continue he'll really prove his nickname of Nick Paul does it all if he's filling in for Point on that second line. So one of those guys needs to step up in a big way while we're missing Braden Point.
Absolutely. Nick Paul was nothing but a hero in Game 7. What a way to show off that trade, man. That was huge. That second goal from him was phenomenal. My jaw dropped to the floor, man. Everyone
he
wasn't
almost had a hat trick in that game too. Remember there was one earlier where he just missed.
It was close. He was on point. So obviously that trade for Nick Paul was absolutely phenomenal. Real quickly, before we get into we'll do a little predictions here for the series. Talk about the schedule real quickly here for this series. This whole Sunday, Monday, back to back. Definitely not a fan of that one. It's a 1:00 game, and then you're going to a 7:00 game. No one else in the NHL, I believe, has a back to back. Somehow we got scheduled for that, which does not seem right. I know the travel is short, but geez, man, we're going into round 2 of the playoffs. I'm sure the Bolts are more beat up than we think right now. Obviously, being down Point, we don't know if there's any other kind of small injuries the guys could be dealing with under their breath. We don't know that kind of stuff. So, Jake, man, obviously you're pretty upset about this schedule here.
Yeah, well, and the first thing I'll say is before you jump on Twitter and start tweeting all the NHL officials and yelling at them, it is a tough thing to do. And the reason the Lightning are having this situation is because they have a concert on Saturday at Amalie Arena. So that's what's caused this and why we're having that back-to-back because of this concert. Now, why they couldn't have started the Lightning on Wednesday and just avoided this, I don't know. But there's a lot that goes into this, whether, it's arena schedules, TV executive stuff, and figuring out their schedules. So it's not as simple as, oh, well, let's just start on Wednesday. But, it's the NHL, and the hockey takes precedent over even concerts. When they sell these tickets to these concerts, they write on them like, this is subject to change. You have to be prepared for that. I remember, I think it was last year when they canceled a concert, and these country fans were furious that they did it because
Garth
of a
Brooks.
playoff game. Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why they couldn't do that, because you don't want back-to-backs in your playoffs, especially in round 2. But the only good thing about this is that at least it's not a back-to-back where it's like from Tampa to Sunrise. At least it's a back-to-back that's Tampa. So nobody's going anywhere, and there's no travel involved for really either team. So that is a positive, but still at the end of the day, it is kind of annoying. And we will get 2 days of rest before coming back to Tampa, which may give the Lightning a little more time for Braden Point, maybe, if he's actually that close. I have no idea what he is. I don't think he's going to play this round at all. But again, like we said, we're not doctors. We have no clue. So we will see. So it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely frustrating because you want to have that, one game, one day off, one game type of schedule, especially in the playoffs, to, give no excuses to anybody of, well, we had to play a back-to-back game or whatever it may be. So definitely frustrating. I wish they could have found a way to make it work, but listen, these are the cards we dealt. It's just like how I talk about, when there's bad calls, good teams overcome bad officiating, good teams overcome tough schedules, right? You cannot let that be an excuse at all. You've got to play your hardest game in and game out, no matter how many days of rest you have.
It's horrible. Obviously, the 2 days off is huge before that, but man, that game 3 is going to be huge. Whoever wins that game 3, man, that's going to be a big game, because that next game back to back, you're going to see some tired guys in the ice, especially if we're still down a guy like Point. That's going to be extra shifts. So I'm not a fan of it at all. I'm really not. It's the playoffs. You can find a way around it. Definitely disappointed in the NHL, whoever, for that one. So here we go. Series prediction, my favorite time of the year. Obviously, I'm 0 for 1 already. I started off a lot better last year. Matt Gannon is holding it down at 1-0. He's not here, but we will get his prediction eventually.
I mean, technically, we're all 1-0, right? We all picked the Bolts. Close enough.
Yeah. It's close enough, but it's for fun. So, Jake, I'm going to give you the floor first here on your series prediction. What you got here for the Bolts?
Bolts in 3. No, I'm kidding. You guys know I always left a little fun and make a little joke in there, but you guys are probably getting sick of it at this point. They're like, this stupid joke. No, I'm kidding. But listen, most people are saying Bolts in 7 or 6, or even if they're picking Florida, they're saying 7 or 6, which is what I tend to lean to, because the NHL playoffs have been fantastic year. A lot of these teams are very closely matched up, and I think same thing for the Lightning and the Panthers. We saw in the regular season, they split the season series 2-2, although there was that one game where the Lightning literally had their AHL team out there and lost 9-3. So that one you can kind of throw out. But I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here and say Bolts in 5. I'm going Bolts in 5, and that is my prediction, because listen, I had picked Washington to win in the first round, and they almost did. They were close, but they blew a huge series lead. If the Lightning can do that, I don't think they're blowing a big of a series lead like Washington did. So I've got Bolts in 5. Call me crazy, but I think they've got this done.
No, I like it. It's a bold prediction. Obviously, I'd like to go with Bolts in 5, and the only reason I'm not is because the Bolts, the consistency for them to me isn't there yet. Game 6 and 7 was a little better, but even in Game 6, man, we still struggled a little bit with Toronto. They almost had that game and almost pulled it out. So I think the Bolts win this series in 6. I'm going 6 again. I think Florida's going to steal one here or there just because of the consistency of the Lightning. Who knows? We could have the great team show up and we could sweep them all the way back down to Miami. And
how great would that be?
That'd be awesome. It's possible. Like I said, I feared Toronto more than I fear Florida. I think we match up better with Florida.
I agree 100% with that.
Toronto was a scary team this year coming in. It was one of their best seasons. We really showed up and showed who we can be, and we are a defending champ. So
and listen, don't get us wrong. Florida's a very good hockey team. They're a very good hockey team. but they've
Absolutely.
got their flaws, no question. Remember,
I'm
the key is just get one in Sunrise. Just
Yeah,
get one.
that's it. One game. I'm not saying Florida can't play or can't score, but I always give the edge to the better goalie here when it comes to playoff time. And once again, Vasi's in net for us, so I got to give the edge to the boys. Bolts in 6, man. Bolts in 6. I think it's going to be a really, really fun series. I really do. Like I said, we're all predicting high scoring, and it's going to be one of those weird low scoring series probably where the goalies shine. So really quickly, can do some fun here, do some other looks around the league, get some other series going on. Obviously, the Lightning are taking on the Panthers. Blues and Avalanche. I think the Avalanche win that series. I would say Avs in 6. I think the Blues put up a pretty solid fight there, but I do like the Avs in that series. Rangers Hurricanes. I have the Rangers winning that series in 7. I think it's a battle. But I'm riding the Rangers right now. And then Flames and Oilers. That's going to be a heck of a battle up there in Canada. I got the Flames and taking down the Oilers in 7 with that as well. I think the Flames are a really hot team, man. I think Ottinger stood on his head for Dallas with 60-something saves last night.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely phenomenal. Shout out to Ottinger, man. That was crazy. Anybody who stayed up to watch that game, it ended at 1 a.m. our time. So Game 7s were on fire in the first round. Awesome stuff in the NHL so far. Obviously, we have to switch from locally now to go to ESPN and TNT, which is definitely a bummer because I'm going to miss Bally Sports. So, Jake, anything around the league? You got some predictions for the other series for us here?
Well, I'm gonna miss Dave Randorf and the rest of the Bally crew. Not Bally itself, but Dave, Ryan, and Gabby as well. They're all fantastic. Huge shout out to them, by the way. I've loved what they've done, and especially Dave coming in and filled in huge shoes for Rick Peckham. So
right.
Another great season. Can't wait to hear you guys again next year. But so we got Avs and Blues. Just because our producer Eureka is an Avs fan, I'm going Blues in 4. But listen, the Avs are a really good team. They got Cale Makar, right? Who's he's a menace, man. That guy is so good. He can take over series by himself. And this is usually this is the big series for the Avs, right? They've struggled a little bit and haven't been able to get to the second round. If they can get past the second round, I don't know if anybody can stop them. So I'm going Avs in 7. I'm gonna go 7. I think the Blues push them, but I think the Avs can do it though. They should be able to do it, but we'll see how it plays out. Let's see. What is the other Western Conference series? So the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah.
That should be another fun one too. Man, a lot of these series I feel like are going to go 7 again.
Yep.
It's going to be a tough one. Edmonton, good for them getting that first round win. They were on the brink there for a little while against the Kings. Credit to the Kings for pushing them, but I'm going to go Calgary in 5. I'm going Calgary in 5 on this one. I think Calgary's just such a good team.
Johnny Hockey.
Johnny Hockey. Guys like even Blake Coleman are playing so well on that team. To Chuck, that barn is always rocking. I like the Flames a lot. I'm going Flames in 5. The Oilers they've got a great team. They've got the star power of guys like Connor McDavid, but heck, even if the Kings can take those guys to 7 games, well, I guess the Flames did go to 7 too, but what's to say the Flames can't take care of these guys pretty easily too. So I'm pretty bad at picking the games anyway, but I'm picking the Flames to win.
All fun right here.
So then let's see, last one, we got Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. This is another tough one again, man. The Rangers, I had a huge comeback. I could not believe Pittsburgh wasn't able to close out that series. A lot of credit to them for staying their course even when they were struggling there. And then meanwhile, Carolina, you thought early in that series they were going to blow out Boston, and then Boston somehow comes back and wins 2, evens up the series at 2. Carolina is the home team in this, so if Carolina is able to keep it up and keep their perfect record at home, they're going to win this series. I think I like Carolina in this series. They've been playing really good. The Rangers have had some issues as well. Another tough series. I'll take Canes in 7 on this one.
Okay, so you got Bolts Canes, I got Bolts Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see what we do here against Florida. Another great episode here, man. Good stuff. It was fun. Lots to talk about. Playoffs, man. Round 2 is here, man. Let's get excited. I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners, our followers at RBLR Sports. We're on all platforms of social media: Instagram, Stitch, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We're posting new content daily. Big shout out to our producer Eureka, man. He's doing a lot for you guys. He's an awesome guy. So doing a lot for the doing a lot for the show and the company here. So man, final thoughts, man. This series is gonna be fun. Buckle up, man. It's gonna be a back and forth ride. We don't have to travel far. No more passports needed. We only have to hear one anthem. No booing of the anthems will be played in Sunrise or here at Amalie. We are respectful fans of our national anthem. So in all talk and all seriousness, I think the Bolts take this in 6. We know what to do. We know what needs to be done. We took out Florida last year. I always give the edge to the goalies. So Mbassy's in net for us. And with our star power, man, Cooch, we still got Stammer, we still got Hedman, that guys like Nick Paul. Man, without point, we can still do it, man. This team finds a way. So, Jake, I'm going to give you the final word here, man. Go ahead and take us home.
Speaking of the anthem, by the way, how good does Amalie sound?
Great. We did awesome.
They sound fantastic.
Awesome.
So shout out to them. Listen, it's going to be a fun series. It's going to be a grueling series. It's going to be a battle. I'm looking forward to it all. And just get one in Sunrise. Keep those rats off the ice. Go Bolts, baby.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.